My dear friends, the Gospel according to St. Matthew, chapter 21, from verse 28 to 32, presents us with a parable about the two sons who were sent by their father to go work in the vineyard. The first son, we are told, when approached by the father, said no, but later changed his mind and went. While the second son, even though had said yes to the father, never went. The theme, therefore, for our reflection is facta non-verbal. That is, acts, not words. This ties in beautifully with a famous statement attributed to Abraham Lincoln, and I quote, "Actions speak louder than words." I believe that all of us will appreciate the wisdom in this saying, because it hurts when working with people who talk beautifully, yet fail to walk the talk. The inference from the text is how easy it is for us to say yes, yet do nothing. This is the theological import of the parable. Now, what are some of the lessons that can be learnt from this parable? The first point is the response of the first son to the father when approached to go and work in the vineyard. He has said no to the father, but later changed his mind and went. My dear friends, by saying no to the father, it was negative. Yet when he changed his mind and did the father's will, the negative was changed to positive. In other words, a bad behavior turned into a good one. This means that even though we too may have said no to God at one point or another, we can change our minds and, like the first son, begin to say yes by what we do. It is never too late. Yes, it is true that our past may be bad, but with God, there is always a second chance. And this is very clear from the text. We can always come back to God. Remember the story about the prodigal son. Even though he had turned his back on his father, when he changed his mind and came back, the father was already out waiting for his return, and he was welcomed back home. We should never allow our past to hold us captive. There is always hope for us. And it is in relation to this that the words of St. Augustine may be very helpful. And I quote, "There is no saint without a past, and no sinner without a future," unquote. So St. Augustine himself, though had a bad past or an ugly past, a past that he was not proud about, a past that he could not boast about, yet he did not allow that to hold him captive. When he changed his own life, now he is a saint. And this gives hope to all of us. If Jesus himself from this parable is saying that tax collectors and prostitutes are entering the kingdom of God, then what is it that is making some of us think that it is too late? Or why should some of us think that we are not worthy? We can begin to do something positive. Our actions must speak something good. Our actions must speak something positive. And that is the first lesson we can learn from this parable. 2, another point we can learn from this lesson of the first is that if the past can be changed to become positive, Then why do we label people with their past? The fact that someone was a sinner yesterday does not mean that that person will be a sinner forever. The fact that somebody was a sinner yesterday does not mean that the person is a sinner today. Something can change. So for those of us who always label people with their past, that once they've committed a certain crime or sin and we know about it, we use that to perpetually tag or define or label them. This must stop. For Jesus is saying that even tax collectors and prostitutes are entering the kingdom. So no need to use the past to judge people and define people. It is wrong. The third lesson, the response of the second son to the father. Yes, sir, he said, but did not go. This son responded positively, yet his action was negative. The third lesson, the response of the second son to the father when approached to go and work in the vineyard was, and I quote, yes, but did not go, unquote. This son responded positively, yet his action was negative. The action contradicted what he has said to the father he will do. The message here is a profound truth that words never take the place of deeds or actions. It is never enough to say yes. Once we say yes, our actions must conform or follow our utterances. If we say yes and our actions contradict what we have said, then there is a problem. This is where it's important to emphasize the point that Jesus addressed this parable to the chief priests and the elders of the people, to mean that these were religious leaders, people who knew God and had said yes to God. But there was a problem with their action. So like the second son, and like the audience of this parable, we too, at one point or another, may have said yes to God. And it's possible that our actions may be contradicting our yes. At the point of baptism, we all said yes to God when we made the baptismal promises, which is renewed every year. At the time of marriage, we said yes to God, yes to marriage, yes to faithfulness, yes to love. At the time of ordination, we said yes to God. At the time of the job interview, we said yes. Now Jesus is reminding all of us to watch the verbal courtesy and politeness, because they cannot replace deeds. Remember, the early church, as recorded in the Acts of the Apostles chapter 9 verse 2, was called the way, not because of words, but due to their way of life. Their life spoke eloquently that they were described as the way. In view of this, we appreciate the central role of deeds or actions. And Pope Paul VI, in his apostolic exhortation on December 8th, 1985, to bishops, clergy, and to all the faithful of the entire world, said, and I quote, "Modern man listens more willingly to witnesses than to teachers. And if he does listen to teachers, it is because they are witnesses." This is to mean that it is not enough to teach. It is important that after teaching, we witness. We show it by our way of life, by our conduct, by our behavior. And this is the task of every believer, of every Christian. Saint Vincent de Paul, whose memorial we observe, is celebrated not just because of what he said, but because of what he did. His life, his love for the poor, how he demonstrated it, is what we celebrate. Let me therefore conclude by stressing the point that our world is hungry for witnesses. Our world needs Christians not just by name, but by deeds. Can people look at us, look at our way of life, and then make a choice for Christ? That is a question to be reflected upon. Now is the time to demonstrate, not just by what we say, but by what we do. Factor, non-verbal. Acts, not just words. God bless you.